The Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helene conspiracy theory going on right now is downright insane. It's downright shocking. Matter of fact, I did not think that weather control, weather manipulation was a conspiracy theory. But it's one of those conspiracy theories now that has turned political. This turned political out of nowhere overnight. If you are a person that believes that the government does have the capabilities to control the weather, you are a right-wing nut job. If you are a person that doesn't believe that the government has the capabilities of controlling the weather, causing hurricanes and so forth, then you are a liberal bootlicker. This is where we are right now. The question is, how did we get here? How are we at a point where we are turning on one another when it comes to the topic of weather control, weather manipulation? Because not too long ago, we were pretty much unified in the topic when it came to such topics like Bill Gates blocking out the sun, China creating an artificial sun. We were all pretty much unified when it came to those rains in Dubai, when even news and media came out and said that everything's normal. This is normal. There was no weather manipulation. There was no cloud seeding. There was nothing like that going on in Dubai. We all pretty much said that's BS. This same news and media that's telling us that weather modification, weather manipulation, weather control is nothing more than a crazy, kooky conspiracy theory, a right-wing kooky conspiracy theory. Well, only 4 years ago, they were telling us China to expand weather modification program to cover area larger than India. This same news and media was getting on China for modifying and manipulating the weather. The same news and media that's now calling it a crazy conspiracy theory and saying you can't do it. Let us go ahead and take a further look at this article from CNN that was published on December 3rd, 2020. And the reason why I'm using CNN happens to be because CNN is a left-wing media. And like I said, if you do not believe that the government can control the weather, well, you are considered a left-wing person. This article says China this week revealed plans to drastically expand an experimental weather modification program to cover an area over 5.5 million square kilometers, more than 1.5 times the total size of India. According to a statement from the State Council, China will have a developed weather modification system by 2025, thanks to breakthroughs in fundamental research and key technologies, as well as improvements in comprehensive prevention against safety risk. In the next 5 years, the total area covered by artificial rain or snowfall will reach 5.5 million square kilometers, while over 580,000 square kilometers will be covered by hail suppression technologies. The statement added that the program will help with disaster relief, agricultural production, emergency responses to forest and grassland fires, and dealing with unusually high temperatures or droughts. This interestingly ends with, China has long sought to control the weather to protect farming areas and to ensure clear skies for key events. It seeded clouds ahead of the 2008 Beijing Olympics to reduce smog and avoid rain ahead of the competition. Key political meetings held in the Chinese capital are notorious for enjoying beautiful clear skies, thanks both to weather modification and the shutting down of nearby factories. The article continues to say that between 2012 and 2017, the country spent over $1.34 billion on various weather modification programs. Last year, according to state news, weather modification helped reduce 70% of hail damage in China's western region, a key agricultural area. So basically, the article is not saying that China can't do it, or it's some kind of sci-fi BS, or that it's impossible like we are hearing today. They are even taking it a step further and saying that China can use their weather modification programs in conflicts, that they can actually steal the rain from bordering countries. Read this here. It says, though the primary focus of Beijing's weather modification appears to be domestic, experts have warned there is the potential for impact beyond the country's borders. In a paper last year, researchers at National Taiwan University said that the lack of proper coordination of weather modification activity could lead to charges of rain stealing between neighboring regions. Now imagine that. Imagine you can accuse a country of actually stealing the rain from other countries, yet you deem it impossible to control the weather. I would think stealing the rain from other countries, what they call rain stealing, would be quite the feat. This CNN article continues to say these scientific evidence and political justification for weather modification is not subject to debate or broad discussion, and they make sure they put in parentheses in China, the authors wrote. In addition, the leadership's propensity for technological intervention in taming different weather systems is rarely challenged by alternative viewpoints. So the question happens to be if multiple news agencies, if multiple countries, including the United States, happens to accuse China of manipulating and controlling the weather, then why is Joe Biden saying this?
What a ridiculous thing to say. It's not true. Now the claims are getting even more bizarre. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman from Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop. In moments like this, there are no red or blue states. There's one United States of America.
So a few things I do want to mention from that short clip where we have Joe Biden giving this speech where he looks rather surprised when he mentions the federal government controlling the weather, and then he says it's absolutely ridiculous. But just a few years ago, they, and again, when I say they, I'm talking about the United States government, other governments, news, and media, were accusing China of the exact same thing. Biden is saying that the United States government controlling the weather is absolutely ridiculous, but is he saying that the United States is vastly less superior than China when it comes to technology? And if he's not saying that, then what's being said here? Or are we looking at some kind of lie here? If they are accusing China of doing all of this, of having these kind of technologies, imagine the technologies that we don't see that governments do have when it comes to controlling the weather. And yet, for whatever reason, this has now turned political. For whatever reason, they were able to knock a couple birds out with one stone and turn the topic of weather control into division here in the United States on par with the likes of the C-19. Remember back during the C-19 that if you were a person promoting the jab or wanting to get the jab and the boost, then you were a crazy liberal. But if you were a person that did not want to get the jab, did not want to get the boost because you were against it, you were a crazy Republican. You just could not be a person that did not want to get the jab. You could not be a person that just wanted to get the jab because you felt more protected. No, you had to fall into this idea of politics where everything we do has now become political. Now we can no longer talk about weather control because now we are given labels upon doing so, and that is absolutely crazy. This is even playing out like the C-19 step by step, so we might even see some channels getting banned for even talking about weather control. We are now seeing news reports coming out where meteorologists are saying that they are receiving threats against their lives because they are not promoting weather control. Well, we saw the same exact thing back in 2020 where doctors and scientists were saying they were receiving threats against their lives for promoting the jab. Then from there, being against the jab, talking negatively against the jab, turned into a crazy and dangerous conspiracy theory. Just like what we're going to see with weather control. Talking about weather control, the government controlling the weather, will now be turned into a dangerous conspiracy theory, and we are going to see these topics censored. We are going to see some channels banned from YouTube and other platforms for even making videos on weather control. This is their playbook. This is how they introduce censoring certain topics and people don't see it. Like with Clinton's emails. Remember that guy, he went to wherever it was and he shot that pizza place that was in the center of that whole gated pizza controversy. And then talking about the emails, talking about the gated pizza controversy, then turned into a very dangerous conspiracy theory, and that topic had to be censored. So we are no longer allowed to talk about that topic on certain platforms because for whatever reason, another nut job will take a gun and target the pizza place, even though the last person that targeted the pizza place with a gun only shot up the computer at the pizza place. Isn't that funny how that works? So it's rather interesting how weather modification is now going mainstream and becoming political, even though the topic of weather modification and weather control goes back years. More recently, people were talking about weather control, the government controlling the weather during Beryl and during Maui, the Maui fires. You will be very hard pressed to find anybody that believes the fires in Maui were natural. We were all unified when it came to Maui, and yet we did not have Biden going on TV saying the government controlling the weather. Well, that's just ridiculous. Yet for whatever reason, these last couple days, there is a unified front when it comes to the governments, when it comes to news and media, and certain members of the public coming together to push back the talking point of the government using weather control or having the capabilities to control the weather. And you really have to ask yourself, why? Why now? Why are they now pushing so hard against the concept of weather control? Why are they trying to censor and control the narrative now? But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.